In today's video, I'm going to show you how I apply my foundation so I get a nice, even, smooth base that is glowy and dewy and hydrated and just ready for the rest of the makeup. So just to start off with, I am going to actually prime my skin. So a good way to have foundation adhere to your skin, or at least I have found in the many years that I've been using foundation, is to start off with a primer base. And for bonus, I think it's better to have, if you are using like a more water-based foundation, say one of the first of the 5 ingredients has water, which a lot of foundations will, then having a primer that has a water base will definitely help you out. I'm using the Drier, which is a K-Beauty primer, and it's the water veil primer because the foundation I am going to be using today is water based, so it's a very good tacky primer. And I'm going to pat. I've already have my skincare on, and I've went ahead and fixed up my eyebrows a little bit so they're a little bit more shapely. And I'm going to pat all of this product into my skin here. And I'm using like a pea size amount. You can definitely use more, but I think with this primer it actually works pretty good in keeping the makeup fresh and keeping it on your face and not slipping around. If you are someone that has a lot drier skin, or if you're an older lady or gentleman, you know, I am older. I am 40 and I'll be 41 soon, so I definitely have drier skin that I have to contest with. So an extra step is you can add a little bit of eye primer. I am actually using the Innisfree eye cream, and it's very jelly and it has a nice little consistency if you feel that you need a little extra. So I'm going to tap just along under my eyes, just to give myself a little bit more moisture, because a lot of times with foundation and concealers, the more hydrated that thin area of skin is, the better the makeup will adhere to it, and it's not like caking out on you like crazy. So with foundation in particular, there are mainly 3 tools that you can use to apply it. There is first a sponge. What I'm holding is the Real Technique sponge, and I think sponges can be actually probably the most sanitary of them all, because for a lot of sponges they're disposable. For reusable ones like the one I have, you have to be really diligent in cleaning them after every use because they harbor so much bacteria. As you know, you can always buy like a little sponge cleaner, or you can use good old baby shampoo. Baby shampoo, any garden variety of it, is usually pretty good in cleaning brushes and sponges. So you can always use a sponge and just dampen it a little bit, not sopping wet, just a little bit damp so it expands a bit, and it helps with that bounce factor and helping you to spread out foundation. The second tool that you can use is a foundation brush. Foundation brushes, there's so many that you can choose from. I think one that you can use and anchor as like a paintbrush and smooth out works well. Mainly any makeup supplier that you're going to, they usually will have a brush, so anything that's labeled foundation brush is usually good to go. And then last, and of course not least, your fingers are an incredible tool for doing foundation with. I am going to use the foundation brush. The one I'm particularly using is QO Beauty's, and it's their HD foundation brush. This is a Canadian brand because I am Canadian. I got this from Shoppers Drug Mart, so they're very pricey, but their brushes are fantastic. And as a bonus, you don't have to do this, but another foundation brush that you keep clean, that's nice and fluffy, is also good to have on hand, and I'll show you in a bit as to why. So those are my tools, and to get into the foundation today, the LYS or Liss Beauty foundation. This is a water-based foundation, and it's packed with a bunch of skincare loving ingredients. I got this from Sephora. I've talked about this foundation before. I think it applies beautifully. I'm in the shade DN5, and it is neutral, and it goes on and it feels like a serum, so it is very, very moisturizing. As a General rule of thumb, I like using something like a makeup palette to place my foundation in. I've already previously used this today, so it looks very dirty. But I got this off of Amazon, just a few bucks, and I think it's a good place to just measure out how much foundation that you need. So I'm going to go into my foundation and I'm going to put just about that much. If you can see that. So it's about a pea-size amount or more. I think with foundation, it's definitely better to go less and then build up. And with foundation, if you're using a liquid foundation, which is what I'm using, I think it is a pretty good beginner-friendly way to get going. If you just use a tiny droplet of it and then use your foundation brush and you dip into, and you're going to work in the center of your face and diffuse out. So I'm going to work around the center and try to aim for the areas that I feel need a little bit more coverage. I'm just going to dot. So I'm trying to aim more into the center of my face. So the lower half of my face is a little bit darker. The center is a little bit lighter, and then it gets darker as you get to the perimeter. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start blending out. So I'm going to blend in broad strokes, just going out. And I'm going to just work that product in towards the neck. And see, that is my first layer of foundation. So you can go back into the same makeup palette, take a few more dabs into the palette onto your brush, and then you can continue to apply a little bit more coverage as you see fit. And again, you just work from the center and blend outwards as best as you can. So as you can see, my face is fully covered now with foundation. I have blended and blended and blended. What you can now do with your clean foundation brush that might be a little bit more fluffy and dome shaped is just go back and just use it to kind of smooth everything out. So make sure you've blended towards the hairline, towards your ears, and then just clean brush will just act as just that final touch to kind of smooth everything out. There's a makeup artist by the name of Lisa Eldridge who is very, very famous, and I've watched her makeup tutorials over the years, and she was the one that had mentioned getting a clean foundation brush just to kind of smooth over the edges a little bit of what you've done. And I've taken to that makeup tip and I've used that ever since. So if you don't want to use a clean makeup brush, let's say you want to just keep things very simple, you can use your fingers, clean fingers, preferably you've washed your hands after applying moisturizer or any other cream product, because that might actually interfere with the foundation formula. So just make sure you're working with clean hands, and you can kind of pat and smooth at will. If you feel that you've put too much on, what you can also do is you can grab a tissue and just kind of blot here and there just for excess. You're not like pressing really hard because you've just done all that work of blending everything out, but you can definitely use a tissue just to kind of help do a little bit of cleanup and to help blot a bit. And then you just keep looking in the mirror, and then once you feel that it's at the amount of coverage you want, then you're pretty set to go. I'm just going to take the extra step of adding some concealer. I have the Say Hydro Beam Concealer. I'm going to put just under my eyes because I do have a little bit of discoloration. I'm going to do a separate video just about applying concealer and the different type of concealers that I have found that has been very helpful in my makeup journey. I'm going to make that its own video. So I'm just putting in some of that concealer, and I'm putting it more towards the area that I find is darkest. I'm going to go back with my foundation brush because I didn't bring my separate concealer brush for this, because I wanted to focus this video just on the foundation, and I'm just going to blend out away from the inner corner and then diffuse out. So I'm just kind of using the edge of my foundation brush here. And I'm just gonna kind of pat and gentle sweep. It's the same idea with concealer as it is with foundation as well. You start with a little bit and then you add as needed. I'm just gonna put in a touch more. This concealer is actually more of a brightening thing, so it's not actually meant to be super coverage. It's just supposed to brighten the area a little bit. For today's video, I wanted to keep it pretty skin-like as far as the finish, so I'm not looking for heavy coverage today. So more hydrating, so definitely like a more dry skin friendly type concealer. It has the same kind of serum base as the LYS foundation does, so it kind of all comes together really well. If you want it to actually last a little bit, powder usually does help. Now, as far as powders that you can use, there's so many setting powders on the market. You're just gonna look for a translucent one. The one I'm using today is from Ilia, and it is their Fade Into You Soft Focus Finishing Powder. Typically, if you're looking for something to lock in your makeup and last for hours instead of just slip and slide all over your face, you're looking for a powder that says finishing or setting. So there's a lot of product, so I'm just going to tap a little bit of powder, it's a little bit too much, into the cover, and then I'm going to take a really fluffy domed brush that's clean, and I'm just going to lightly tap into the cover and then just tap off the excess, and I'm just going to gently pat in the areas that I want to stay a little bit more matte and to lock in. So for me, I like to have the T-zone covered. I have a little bit drier skin because I'm older, but I also sometimes suffer from like combination, a little bit oily skin. So, and this is a more hydrating primer, or hydrating, well, it's a hydrating everything. It's more hydrating foundation and primer. So getting my T-zone, so right across and down, typically helps me to lock in. So a nice loose powder just to kind of finish off your look is good. If you want to help with your under eyes, especially if you're using a more hydrating concealer or a hydrating foundation and you just want that to set for a little bit longer and not have it move all over the place, you can also get like a pressed powder, so something that's in a compact. And again, you're looking for anything that says setting powder. I'm using the Huda Beauty Easy Bake and Snatch. And this is great for like under eye setting. So I am using the color Cinnabon, and I'm just tapping. I should probably use a cleaning brush, but I'm just going to use my same foundation brush, and I am going to just pat under the eyes just to set that in place. Just a wee bit. See? And then you can pretty much leave it at that. The final step would be, if you want even just a little bit more coverage, a little bit more locking in and setting, you can get what is called a setting spray or finishing spray. So there are different types that have different functionalities. I'm okay because I'm looking for just a regular, degular look and just having just a setting spray that can add a little bit of moisture but help to set the makeup. So I'm using the Milk Hydro Grip setting spray, and you're just gonna do like an X. So I'm gonna close my eyes. So here is my finished look. I decided just to do a little bit of blush, a little bit of lip tint, and it just immediately just kind of wakens everything up. My skin looks a lot smoother. I didn't go too crazy with detailing and getting every single imperfection out. Just wanted a nice smooth base that looks more even, hydrated, and I hope that it's helpful. if you're someone that is a beginner in makeup and are really overwhelmed with the idea of getting into the world of foundation, I think there's so many foundation types out there on the market, but I think to start off with, a nice liquid one that's hydrating if you're a little bit older, you have a little bit more mature, dry skin, I definitely think is a good place to start, and then using less is more. As I said, I'm gonna do a little bit more videos about like just some basic makeup tips that I have come to learn over my years of using and enjoying makeup, and I hope that you'll find it helpful. But yes, here's a finished look, and thank you for joining me for this video. Till the next one.